Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Welcome back to the Patrick Riggins Show. If you're beating your head trying to figure out where you heard that song, it's from the Cocktail soundtrack.
No, just beating my head listening to it.
Yeah. Tori, not a fan of the happy music.
Yeah, this was one Patrick picked out.
Yeah, but you had the spirit fingers.
Oh, yeah.
And the happy
hands.
jazz hands and spirit fingers.
You really should watch at home on the camera.
Yeah. Well, I'm not so sure that is a good idea.
No.
Because someone may be recording that some way, and
if I end up on Facebook, I will find you.
That's where that will end up.
Facebook, find it on YouTube.
Or YouTube.
Sorry.
Even worse, YouTube.
Long day.
It's just a happy song. No.
Are we done with it now?
Yeah.
Are we done?
You can fade it out. All right. Welcome back to the Patrick Riggins Show. This segment, we're going to talk a little bit about Mitt Romney, who is on Meet the Press doing an exclusive interview. And we have a few sound bites from him I'd like you to hear. Before we get to that, though, I get a lot of people asking me during the week when I'm out and about, and also through emails, well, why is it I seem to pick on the Republican candidates more than the Democrat ones? On this show, I try to be equally repulsive to both parties. But I know it may seem like I clam onto the Republicans' backs a little more. I guess it's because these guys are supposed to be the ones who are closest to my political views. And they aren't just Patrick's views. They are America's views. What we used to believe and work towards as Americans. What made us special in the world. Freedom and liberty, and along with those, individual responsibility. These aren't being reflected in our presidential candidates. Neither Democrat, as you would expect, but not on the Republican side either, which is what you wouldn't expect, ideally. But if you're a regular listener to this show, you know better. Both sides are out to rework America, and in the process, redefine American values and what made our country great. This interview, though, getting back to this, Mitt Romney was asked about Obamacare, and here was his answer.
I say we're going to replace Obamacare, and I'm replacing it with my own plan.
As you've heard over and over on this show, Mitt's idea is to replace Obamacare, not get the government out of health care, but to administrate it in the right way. Again, these guys are big government knows best people.
I'm not getting rid of all of health care reform. Of course, there are a number of things that I like in health care reform that I'm going to put in place.
See, Mitt likes health care reform as long as he is the one calling the shots. As long as the Republicans are in charge of screwing up our health care system, well, that's okay. If the Democrats are the ones doing it, well, then that's just wrong. So we've established that Mitt wants the government interfering in the health care market. How does he plan on doing this?
One is to make sure that those with pre-existing conditions can get coverage.
He is going to assure those with pre-existing conditions they can get coverage. A couple of years ago, this was one of the biggest problems Republicans had with Obamacare. Now, all of a sudden, with their guy, it's okay. How do you think Mitt is going to assure those with pre-existing conditions they can get coverage? Through government regulations, of course. Doesn't sound too less government to me. By the way, here's a little note to Mitt, and I'm sure he listens to this show on a weekly basis. And if he doesn't, he probably posts to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Patrick Riggins Show and listens to the shows there. Because I know he looks to me for advice and information. But here's a quick note to him. Pre-existing coverage is not insurance. Pre-existing coverage is called treatment. If the condition is pre-existing, how do you insure against it? It's already there. That's treatment of a condition. In other words, it is government-mandated health care without the government paying for it. I don't know how you can call it anything else. Incidentally, this is why listening to this radio show will help you remove the blinders and through all this double talk these politicians use. And also why you need to make sure your friends are listening as well. It is through this kind of education that we have a shot at getting this country turned around. But getting back to Mitt, here's his second point on this subject.
2 is to assure that the marketplace allows for individuals to have policies that cover their family up to whatever age they might like.
He is assuring something again, and when Mitt is saying the word assure, or any government person uses that word, it means requiring, which leads to more government regulation. He wants to assure the marketplace allows for individuals to have policies that cover their families up to whatever age they like. Using the word assure and the word marketplace in the same sentence shows he really likes government interference in the free market. And why wouldn't he? He certainly did it in Massachusetts. Why would we think doing it as president would be any surprise? Here's his third point.
I also want individuals to be able to buy insurance, health insurance, on their own as opposed to only being able to get it on a tax advantage basis through their company.
You know the way to do this, Mitt? Get the government out of the healthcare market. Did you not study this at Harvard? Oh, wait, he probably did, and he is doing exactly as he is taught. The Republicans and the Democrats both want to run your life. They want to have a say over everything you do. Why is that, you may ask? It is because they share the same core principles of government knows best. Mitt and Paul Ryan aren't the conservative bulwark they are portrayed to be. Or maybe they are if this is conservative thinking in this country today. This is why voting for Mitt and Barack isn't really any different. If I tell you we are going to Florida, and we can take either the red car or the blue car, which would you pick? Either way, we're getting to the same destination. We'll just arrive in one car or the other. Although where these candidates are taking us is nowhere near as pleasurable or as nice as Florida. One more little soundbite, and this one has nothing to do with health care, but I thought it poignant nonetheless. It was still during the interview. And they were asked about what to do with Iran and how to stop them from developing nuclear weapons. Here was his answer.
It begins with crippling sanctions. That should have been put in place long ago.
Crippling sanctions. That is what we need to do. Because they worked so well with Cuba, didn't they? Oh, for an even better example, North Korea. For some common sense on this particular subject, let's listen to a few clips from Dr. Ron Paul, which I played on this show a little while back. Dr. Paul was addressing Congress about a bill currently before the House of Representatives. And here's what he had to say.
I think this bill would be better named if we called it Obsession with Iran Act 2012. Because this is what we continue to be doing, is obsessed with Iran and the idea that Iran is a threat to our national security.
And here are a few more.
Iran happens to be a third world nation. They have no significant Navy, Air Force, intercontinental ballistic missiles. The IAEA and our CIA said they're not on the verge of a nuclear weapon. It's so similar to what we went through in the early part of this last decade when we were beating the war drums to go to war against Iraq. And it was all a facade. There was no danger from Iraq. So this is what we're doing, beating the war drums once again. When you put on sanctions on a country, it's an act of war, and that's what this is all about. The first thing you do when war breaks out between two countries is you put sanctions on a country. You blockade the country. So this is an act of war. What would we do if somebody blockaded and put sanctions on us and prevented the importation of any product in this country? would be furious, would declare war, would go to war. So we are the antagonists. We're over there poking our nose in other people's affair, just looking for the chance to start another war. First it's Syria, then Iran. We have too many wars. We need to stop the wars. We don't have the money to fight these wars any longer.
Amen, Brother Paul. It is amazing how this man doesn't get total support from the Republicans. I can see why the establishment doesn't want him. He threatens their power. But how he doesn't receive across-the-board support from everyone else is beyond me. We're up here on the last segment, or last break before the last segment of the show. We'll be back here in a couple of minutes where we'll talk a little bit about 9/11 before we get off the show here. This is Patrick Riggins with the Patrick Riggins Show. We'll be back.